Hello everyone and welcome back to another UK Film Review video review. My name's James Learoyd and today I will be reviewing a new short film drama called The Supply Teacher. This film is directed by Bryan Lamb and it is about a supply teacher who comes back to his old school to teach English literature, a little bit of Shakespeare. But then discovers that a neurodiverse person in the class which he's teaching is being bullied by another person in the class. And what starts off as what you could consider a very disturbing but unfortunately common occurrence in the classroom actually it's revealed, goes a lot deeper than that and reveals a sort of integral sort of injustice in the school and its workings when we find out that the headmaster is the father of the bully, and you know the headmaster has been sort of enabling their behaviour and allowing sort of discriminative language to continue to be used. And it's about basically these two individuals, the supply teacher and then the character who's being bullied, who's also played by Bryan Lamb as well. I think the performances in this film are really strong, and it's about these two people sort of coming to terms with this sort of injustice and prejudice which is taking place around them, and you know something that goes a little bit deeper than I think the supply teacher at first realizes, and it's about them building up their respective sort of strength to sort of fight back against, in a way, a sort of system of behaviour. And it's really interesting. This film is, you know, the screenplay in particular is really complex and important feeling, and particularly for a directorial debut, which is what this is for Bryan Lamb, and you know, you can sort of tell that he's had the support of others to make this film a reality, and I'm really glad that this film was made. So for a debut short film, this is a really exciting piece of work and really successfully and elegantly gets across the kind of message it wants to get across to the audience. I think there are some fascinating little bits in it. I mean, I like the fact that the film is not just limited to the sort of school setting. We then go home with the supply teacher. We see his sort of domestic life. You know, he has a husband who will then come much more prominently into play during the sort of third act of the film, when our character has to sort of make a stand and take a decision to take things into their own hands when sort of these sort of positions of authority fail us, if you know what I mean. So all of that stuff is really fascinating, and as I say, really sort of complex, particularly for like what is, I presume, a first screenplay. So yeah, really fantastic stuff. You know, on a technical level, this isn't like the most refined film ever, but you know, you wouldn't necessarily expect it to be, and yet there are still some really interesting choices on a directorial level in terms of the cinematography and the editing and just the arrangement of each sequence. I love these sort of these shots, but particularly in the conversations between the supply teacher and the headmaster. You know, it really reminds you what sort of Roger Deakins says about shooting for the Coen brothers, where he's like, I like to shoot inside the space. I don't like over shoulders. I like to be here and there because I want to just sort of confront the face, you know. And you really feel that there, because in previous scenes it's very restrained, not a lot of editing, but then suddenly when the stakes are raised, things feel a little more threatening and a little more real. Suddenly the use of the cutting back and forth and the camera being right in people's faces, it works really, really well, and it feels quite cinematic, despite the fact that the shots themselves don't necessarily feel super cinematic. These are, it's a sort of standard digital camera, just sort of standard interior setups, but the way in which they choose to shoot certain lines of dialogue, I think, is really effective for what the film is. But yeah, there's plenty to be very impressed about with this film, and if you like a kind of modern social realism, films that are tackling current issues, then I think this film would probably be for you, because it's a really impressive piece of writing, plenty of impressive performances, and feels like a really important and positive piece of work.